singular and plural subjects. Picture this: you're watching a captivating movie, completely absorbed in the storyline, when suddenly, a character says, "The pack of wolves were running through the forest." It catches your attention, but not in a good way. You pause, confused. Shouldn't it be "was running"? This tiny misstep in grammar pulls you out of the experience, breaking the spell. Such is the power of singular and plural subjects in language. They are the unseen gears that keep the engine of a sentence running smoothly. Singular and plural subjects might seem straightforward: singular for one, plural for more than one, but their proper usage holds the key to effective communication. Imagine a world where the rules of singular and plural didn't exist. Would you say "the apples is red" or "the apples are red"? Without clarity, meaning would crumble and chaos would take over. Stick with me as we dive deep into the fascinating world of singular and plural subjects, their rules, and their nuances. By the end, you'll not only understand them better but also wield them like a language pro. The basics of singular and plural subjects. A subject is the heart of a sentence. It's what the sentence is about, and it dictates how the verb behaves. The simplest rule to remember is this: a singular subject takes a singular verb, and a plural subject takes a plural verb. Consider these examples. The cat sleeps on the couch. Here, cat is singular, so the verb sleeps also takes a singular form. Contrast that with the cats sleep on the couch. Now, cats is plural, so the verb sleep aligns with it. This foundational rule might seem easy to follow, but the real challenge begins when sentences grow more complex. Collective nouns and their tricky nature. Collective nouns like team, group, family, or audience can behave as singular or plural subjects, depending on the context. If the collective noun acts as a single unit, it takes a singular verb. If the focus shifts to the individual members within the group, it requires a plural verb. For example, the team is winning the championship. Here, the team is considered one entity, but the team are arguing over strategy. Now, the individuals within the team are being referred to, so a plural verb is needed. The same logic applies to other collective nouns like herd, class, or jury. Compound subjects. Compound subjects are formed when two or more subjects are joined together by conjunctions like and or. The rules for compound subjects depend on how they are joined. When two subjects are joined by and, they usually take a plural verb. Jack and Jill are climbing the hill. But when the compound subject refers to a singular idea or concept, it takes a singular verb. Macaroni and cheese is my favorite dish. When subjects are joined by or nor, the verb agrees with the subject closest to it. Neither the teacher nor the students are prepared for the test. Neither the students nor the teacher is prepared for the test. Singular subjects that seem plural. Some words may appear plural but function as singular subjects. Nouns like news, mathematics, measles, and physics are grammatically singular, even though they end in s. For example, the news is shocking. Mathematics is a challenging subject. These subjects take singular verbs because they refer to singular ideas or entities. Plural subjects that seem singular. Conversely, some nouns always appear in plural form but take plural verbs. Words like pants, scissors, glasses, and tweezers fall into this category. The scissors are sharp, my glasses were on the table. These nouns are treated as plural because they refer to items with two parts. Indefinite pronouns as subjects. Indefinite pronouns like everyone, someone, nobody, and each are singular, even though they may seem to imply multiple people or things. They always take singular verbs. Everyone is invited to the party. Each of the players has a unique skill. However, indefinite pronouns like few, many, several, and both are plural. Few were able to solve the puzzle. Several have already left the meeting. Some indefinite pronouns can be singular or plural, depending on the context. Words like all, any, none, some, and most fall into this category. All of the cake is gone. All of the cookies are gone. Complex subjects and modifiers. When additional words or phrases modify the subject, determining whether it's singular or plural can become challenging. Always focus on the core subject, not the modifiers. For instance, the basket of apples is on the table. The subject here is basket, not apples, so the singular verb is correct. Similarly, the players, along with their coach, are practicing on the field. The subject is players, so the plural verb are is appropriate, even though the phrase along with their coach might cause confusion. Relative clauses and subject-verb agreement. When a relative clause begins with words like who, which, or that, the verb in the clause must agree with the subject the clause is describing. It is I who am responsible for the error. She is one of the players who excel at basketball. Here, players is plural, so the verb in the relative clause must match. Titles and singular concepts. Titles of books, movies, or other works, even if they appear plural, are treated as singular. The Chronicles of Narnia is a beloved series. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire is my favorite book. Special cases and exceptions. Certain phrases like a number of or the number of can change the agreement. A number of students are attending the seminar. The number of attendees is surprising. Similarly, expressions like one of those who require careful consideration. She is one of those students who excel in mathematics. The verb excel agrees with students, not one. Why singular and plural subjects matter. Getting singular and plural subjects right isn't just about following rules. It's about ensuring clarity and professionalism. Imagine reading a business report where subject-verb agreement is off. It immediately undermines the writer's credibility and distracts from the message. In casual conversations, mistakes might go unnoticed. But in academic writing, professional communication, and public speaking, these errors can detract from the impact of your words. Overcoming common mistakes. The key to mastering singular and plural subjects lies in practice and attentiveness. Pay close attention to the core subject, ignore distractions from modifiers, and learn the specific rules for tricky cases like collective nouns and indefinite pronouns. Reading widely and proofreading your work are also invaluable tools. With time and effort, identifying and correcting subject-verb agreement errors becomes second nature. Singular and plural subjects might seem like minor details, but they hold the power to shape your message and ensure your audience understands you. They're the hidden pillars of effective communication, supporting your words with precision and clarity. But here's a thought: what if breaking these rules could create impact or emphasize a point? Could intentional subject-verb mismatches ever be a stylistic choice? Stay tuned as we explore the boundaries between grammar and creativity in our next deep dive into the art of language. The basics of singular and plural subjects. Imagine stepping into a conversation where someone says, "The group of students are excited about their trip." Did something feel off? Maybe it was a little jarring, like hearing a wrong musical note in a symphony. That's because, in this sentence, the subject and verb don't agree. The subject, group, is singular, but the verb are suggests plurality. These small missteps can confuse readers or listeners and dilute the clarity of communication. Language is all about connection, and understanding the basics of singular and plural subjects is like learning the rules of a game. Mastering these rules helps you play seamlessly and ensures that your thoughts are conveyed accurately. Whether you're crafting a heartfelt email, writing a compelling story, or presenting a professional report, knowing how singular and plural subjects work will elevate your language. Let's take this journey together and explore the fascinating world of singular and plural subjects. By the end, you'll have a new appreciation for these grammar fundamentals and their profound impact on effective communication. Understanding singular and plural subjects. At its core, a subject is the person, place, thing, or idea that a sentence is about. The subject dictates the verb in a sentence, determining whether it's singular or plural. A singular subject refers to one entity, while a plural subject refers to more than one. For example, the cat sleeps has a singular subject, cat, while the cat's sleep has a plural subject, cats. The verb changes accordingly to match the subject. This seems simple enough, but the complexity arises when we delve deeper into nuanced cases involving compound subjects, collective nouns, and indefinite pronouns. Singular subjects and their verbs. Singular subjects always take singular verbs. Verbs in singular form often end in s or es in the present tense. For example, he runs every morning or she writes beautifully. Singular subjects are straightforward when the subject is clearly one person, place, thing, or idea. However, singular subjects can sometimes appear plural because of additional modifiers. For instance, in the sentence "the basket of apples is heavy," the subject is basket, which is singular. The phrase "of apples" is a modifier and does not affect the verb. The plural subjects and their verbs, plural subjects take plural verbs, and the verb in this case does not end in s in the present tense. Consider the sentence "the students enjoy learning." Here, students is the plural subject, and enjoy is the plural verb. Plural subjects are easier to recognize when they explicitly involve more than one entity. Compound subjects and their rules. Compound subjects are formed when two or more subjects are joined by conjunctions such as and, or nor. When two subjects are joined by and, they typically take a plural verb, as in Tom and Jerry are best friends. However, when the compound subject refers to a singular idea or entity, it takes a singular verb, like mac and cheese is my favorite dish. When subjects are joined by or nor, the verb agrees with the subject closest to it. For example, neither the teacher nor the students are ready and neither the students nor the teacher is ready illustrate this rule. Collective nouns, singular or plural. Collective nouns like team, family, herd, or audience represent a group of individuals but are treated as singular or plural depending on context. When the group is acting as one unit, it takes a singular verb, as in "the team is winning." When the focus is on the individuals within the group, it takes a plural verb, as in "the team are discussing their strategies." Singular nouns that appear plural. Certain nouns may look plural because they end in s but are singular in meaning. Words like news, mathematics, and physics fall into this category. For instance, "the news is alarming" treats news as singular, even though it seems plural. Plural nouns that appear singular. Conversely, some nouns always appear in a plural form but refer to singular items. Examples include scissors, trousers, and glasses. For example, "the scissors are sharp" treats scissors as plural because the word inherently refers to a pair of items. Indefinite pronouns as singular or plural subjects. Indefinite pronouns like everyone, someone, nobody, and each are singular and take singular verbs. For example, "everyone is excited about the event." These pronouns emphasize individuals within a group, even though they may imply more than one person. Other indefinite pronouns, such as few, many, several, and both, are plural and take plural verbs. For example, "many were invited to the party." Some indefinite pronouns, such as all, some, and none, can be singular or plural depending on context. For instance, "all of the cake is gone" is singular because cake is singular, whereas "all of the cookies are gone" is plural because cookies is plural. Titles and singular concepts. Titles of books, movies, or other works, even if they appear plural, are treated as singular. For example, "The Chronicles of Narnia" is a popular series uses a singular verb is, because the title is considered one entity. Relative clauses and subject-verb agreement. When a relative clause begins with who, which, or that, the verb in the clause must agree with the subject it describes. For example, in "she is one of the players who excel at soccer," the verb excel agrees with players, which is plural. Special phrases that affect agreement. Certain phrases, like "a number of" or "the number of," can influence whether the subject is treated as singular or plural. "A number of students are participating" treats the subject as plural, while "the number of participants is surprising" treats it as singular. Expressions like "one of those who" also follow specific rules. For example, "he is one of those writers who inspire millions" uses the plural verb inspire to match writers. Why understanding singular and plural subjects is crucial. Clarity in communication is the cornerstone of effective writing and speaking. Misusing singular and plural subjects can lead to confusion and undermine credibility. For instance, in professional settings, errors in subject-verb agreement can detract from the impact of a presentation or document. Understanding these basics is not just about following grammar rules, it's about enhancing precision, professionalism, and engagement in communication. Whether you're crafting a story, writing an academic paper, or delivering a speech, mastering singular and plural subjects ensures your message resonates clearly. Developing mastery through practice. Achieving mastery over singular and plural subjects requires consistent practice. Reading widely and paying attention to how subjects and verbs are used in various contexts can strengthen your understanding. Writing regularly and reviewing your work for subject-verb agreement is equally important. Proofreading and editing are invaluable in catching mistakes that might slip through during the writing process. Over time, these habits will help you develop an intuitive grasp of singular and plural subjects, making your communication effortless and impactful. Singular and plural subjects are the unsung heroes of effective communication. They operate quietly in the background, ensuring that our sentences make sense and flow smoothly. But what happens when these rules are intentionally bent or broken? Can such creative liberties enhance communication or storytelling? In our next exploration, we'll dive into how breaking grammar rules, including those governing singular and plural subjects, can sometimes create a greater impact. Get ready to challenge the boundaries of traditional grammar and explore the art of creative expression. Stay tuned for insights that will redefine how you view the rules of language. Collective nouns in their tricky nature. Imagine watching a soccer game and someone says, "The team are playing exceptionally well today." Does that sound right to you, or does it feel a little off? Now think of someone saying, "The family is gathering for dinner." Feels perfectly normal, right? Welcome to the fascinating world of collective nouns, where words that represent groups like team, family, or committee can sometimes trick even the most seasoned language users. Collective nouns are the quiet chameleons of grammar. They can behave as singular or plural entities depending on the context. This duality makes them both intriguing and, let's admit, a bit challenging. But don't worry. This isn't a grammar lesson designed to put you to sleep. Instead, we're diving into the tricky nature of collective nouns in a way that's both practical and fun. By the end, you'll not only understand how to master these grammar shapeshifters, but you'll also appreciate their complexity in shaping effective communication. Understanding the basics of collective nouns represent groups of people, animals, or things. Words like audience, team, flock, committee, and family fall into this category. At their core, collective nouns describe a single entity comprising multiple members. For instance, a flock of birds refers to one group made up of many birds. The tricky part arises because collective nouns can take either singular or plural verbs, depending on the context. In American English, collective nouns are usually treated as singular when referring to the group as a whole. For example, the committee has decided to postpone the meeting. Treats committee as one unit. In contrast, British English often uses plural verbs, as in the committee have decided to postpone the meeting, emphasizing the individual members of the group. Singular or plural? The context is key. When using collective nouns, the key to choosing between singular and plural forms lies in the intended meaning. If the group is acting as a single unit, use a singular verb. For example, the audience is applauding. The speaker treats the audience as one entity. However, if the members of the group are acting individually, use a plural verb. For instance, the audience are taking their seats focuses on the actions of individual audience members. Common collective nouns and their usage. Let's explore some common collective nouns and their behavior in sentences. Consider the word team. If you say, "The team is practicing for the championship," you're treating the team as a single entity. On the other hand, the team are arguing over the strategy emphasizes the actions of individual members within the team. The same principle applies to family. In my family is planning a vacation, the family is viewed as one unit. In contrast, my family are discussing their individual schedules highlights the perspectives of individual members. Collective nouns with animals. Collective nouns are often used to describe groups of animals, such as herd, flock, pack, or swarm. For example, the herd is grazing peacefully treats the herd as a single group, while the herd are scattering in different directions focuses on the actions of individual animals. Some animal-related collective nouns are uniquely charming, such as a murder of crows or a parliament of owls. While these terms are typically used in singular form, they can follow the same rules when context dictates plural usage. Abstract collective nouns. Not all collective nouns refer to tangible groups. Words like data, information, and equipment are abstract collective nouns that can confuse writers. For example, the data is accurate treats data as a singular entity, whereas the data are being analyzed highlights individual pieces of information. Ambiguity in everyday usage. The tricky nature of collective nouns often leads to ambiguity in everyday language. For instance, in sports commentary, you might hear, "The team are playing well today." While this is common in British English, it might sound strange to an American audience accustomed to treating team as singular. This ambiguity can extend to legal and corporate language. Consider the sentence, "The board is meeting to discuss the proposal." Here, board refers to a single entity. However, the board are divided on the issue emphasizes the differing opinions of individual board members. Cultural differences in collective noun usage. One fascinating aspect of collective nouns is how their usage varies between American and British English. In American English, collective nouns are predominantly singular, emphasizing the group as a single unit. In British English, collective nouns are often plural, reflecting the individuality of the group's members. For example, an American might say, "The band is performing tonight," while a Brit might say, "The band are performing tonight." These differences highlight the nuanced ways language evolves in different cultural contexts. Collective nouns in creative writing. In creative writing, collective nouns can add depth and texture to descriptions. Consider the sentence, "The swarm buzzed angrily as it moved toward the intruder." Here, the collective noun swarm paints a vivid picture of unity in motion. Alternatively, breaking down a collective noun into individual actions can create tension or detail. For example, the swarm of bees were darting in every direction, each one seeking a target shifts the focus to individual members of the group, adding dynamism to the scene. The role of collective nouns in sentence structure. Collective nouns play a crucial role in shaping sentence structure. They influence verb agreement, pronoun usage, and even the overall tone of a sentence. For example, the jury has reached its verdict uses singular pronouns and verbs, maintaining a formal tone. In contrast, the jury are debating their opinions adopts a more informal tone by emphasizing individuality. When constructing sentences, it's essential to consider whether the collective noun refers to a unified group or individual members. This decision impacts verb choice, pronoun agreement, and clarity. Avoiding common mistakes with collective nouns. One common mistake is failing to match the verb with the intended meaning of the collective noun. For example, "The team are winning its match" mixes singular and plural forms, creating confusion. A better version would be, "The team is winning its match" or "The team members are winning their match," depending on the context. Another pitfall is overusing collective nouns in a way that becomes repetitive or monotonous. Varying sentence structure and incorporating synonyms can keep writing engaging. The importance of context and clarity. Understanding the context of a collective noun is essential for clear communication. Ambiguity arises when the intended meaning is unclear, as in the council are meeting to discuss the issue. Does this mean the council members are meeting individually or as a group? Adding context, such as "the council members are meeting to discuss the issue," resolves ambiguity. Mastering collective nouns through practice. Mastering collective nouns requires practice and attention to detail. Reading widely and analyzing how collective nouns are used in different contexts can deepen your understanding. Writing regularly and experimenting with singular and plural forms can also enhance your skills. Proofreading is crucial for catching errors in verb agreement or pronoun usage. Seeking feedback from others can provide valuable insights into improving clarity and precision. Collective nouns are the ultimate shapeshifters of grammar, capable of uniting or dividing the elements they describe. Their tricky nature makes them a fascinating aspect of language, one that challenges us to think critically about meaning and context. But here's the question. What happens when collective nouns break the rules entirely? In our next exploration, we'll dive into how collective nouns are used creatively in literature, advertising, and everyday speech to evoke emotion, humor, or surprise. Get ready to uncover the artistry behind collective nouns and how they can transform ordinary sentences into extraordinary expressions. Stay tuned for a journey into the unexpected. Compound subjects. Have you ever been in a situation where you were unsure whether to use is or are in a sentence? Perhaps you've struggled with compound subjects and felt confused by which verb form to choose. Well, you're not alone. Compound subjects often leave even seasoned writers scratching their heads. It's like trying to assemble a puzzle with pieces that almost fit but don't quite align. In this session, we'll delve deep into the nuances of compound subjects, those tricky combinations of two or more subjects. You might think they're just two nouns joined by and, but they come with hidden complexities that can trip up even the best. By the end of this session, you'll have the confidence to master compound subjects and their agreement with verbs. Whether you're writing an email, a novel, or preparing a presentation, stick around, and we'll break down the mystery of compound subjects together. Ready to transform your writing? Let's get started. What is a compound subject? At its core, a compound subject is a subject that consists of two or more nouns, pronouns, or noun phrases that are linked together. The most common connectors for compound subjects are and, or, and nor. They can be placed before or after the verb in a sentence, but no matter where they appear, they change the way we match the verb with the subject. A simple example would be, John and Sarah are going to the store. Here, John and Sarah are two subjects joined by and, making them a compound subject. The verb are agrees with the plural subject. Since both individuals are acting together as a group, the verb must be plural as well. How compound subjects affect verb agreement. The rule for compound subjects is simple. If the compound subject is connected by and, the verb is usually plural, because the compound subject refers to two or more things, requiring the plural form of the verb. This rule holds true unless the compound subject represents a single entity, in which case a singular verb is used. For example, the dog and the cat are friends. Here, dog and cat are two separate subjects, so are is the appropriate verb. However, peanut butter and jelly is my favorite snack. In this case, peanut butter and jelly is considered a single entity, a unit, so we use the singular verb is. When do you use a singular verb for compound subjects? It's important to note that not all compound subjects require a plural verb. In fact, there are certain instances when compound subjects, even though they are joined by and, are considered singular. This happens when the compound subject refers to a single item, entity, or idea. These compound subjects can include things like two nouns or noun phrases that are commonly understood as a single unit, e.g., bread and butter, salt and pepper, titles, books, movies, or other singular entities, e.g., Romeo and Juliet, mac and cheese. When two nouns or noun phrases are seen as a collective idea or action, e.g., the peanut butter and jelly sandwich is ready to eat. This subtlety of usage can be tricky but is essential for precision in writing. The role of or and nor in compound subjects. When subjects are joined by or nor, the verb should agree with the subject closest to it. This is a rule that many people forget, leading to awkward or incorrect sentences. Here's an example. Neither the teacher nor the students are ready for the test. In this case, because the plural noun students is closer to the verb, the plural form are is used. However, in sentences where the singular noun comes after or nor, we would use a singular verb. Neither the students nor the teacher is ready for the test. Again, the verb is agrees with the singular subject teacher, which is closer to the verb. This rule ensures that the verb always matches the closest subject, making the sentence flow more naturally and logically. The importance of context in compound subjects. Understanding compound subjects and their relationship to verb agreement often depends on context. Sometimes, the context will determine whether a compound subject requires a singular or plural verb. Let's look at a few more examples. Bread and butter is on the table. In this case, even though bread and butter are two separate things, they are considered a singular idea, a combination that typically goes together, so the singular verb is used. On the other hand, consider this sentence: the bread and the butter are on the table. Here, because we have two distinct items, the bread and the butter, the plural verb are is used. Context helps us decide if a compound subject should be treated as singular or plural, and understanding this nuance makes a huge difference in getting the subject-verb agreement just right. Compound subjects with and versus or. When compound subjects are connected by and, the rule is usually straightforward: the verb will be plural. However, when the compound subjects are connected by or nor, the verb will depend on the proximity of the subject to the verb. Here's a breakdown of both scenarios: connected by and colon, plural verb, Jack and Jill are climbing the hill. Since there are two subjects, the verb must be plural, are, connected by or nor colon, singular verb when singular subject is closer, neither the cat nor the dog is in the yard, cat is singular, and since it's closer to the verb, the singular verb is used. Plural verb when plural subject is closer, neither the dog nor the cats are in the yard, cats is plural, so the verb are is used. These examples highlight how the connection between subjects influences verb choice and subject-verb agreement. Compound subjects with collective nouns. Another area of complexity arises when compound subjects are made up of collective nouns, such as team, group, family, or committee. When the compound subject represents a collective entity, the verb can be singular, even if the individual members of the group are plural. For example, the team and its coach are preparing for the game. Here, team is the singular subject, and coach is part of that singular collective entity. Thus, the verb are is plural, as it refers to the action of the group as a whole. Contrast that with, the team and the coach is ready for the game. In this case, both team and coach are viewed as a singular entity. So the verb is used. Understanding how to handle collective nouns in compound subjects is crucial for ensuring correct subject-verb agreement. Understanding compound subjects with adjectives. Sometimes compound subjects can include adjectives or descriptive phrases that modify the subject. These can create confusion, but the general rule still applies. The subject itself determines whether the verb is singular or plural. Consider the following examples: singular subject modifiers, the tall man and the short woman is coming. Even though we have two subjects here, man and woman, the verb is used because the compound subject refers to two individuals as part of a single entity. Plural subject modifiers, the tall men and the short women are coming. Here, both the plural subjects men and women are used, and the verb are correctly matches the plural subject. Practical tips for correct subject-verb agreement in compound subjects. Getting subject-verb agreement right, especially with compound subjects, requires practice and an understanding of the rules. Here are some practical tips. Always identify the core subject first, before considering any intervening phrases or adjectives. Remember that when subjects are connected by or nor, the verb agrees with the closest subject. Watch out for compound subjects that are treated as singular entities, e.g., peanut butter and jelly, bread and butter. Pay close attention to collective nouns, especially when they are part of compound subjects. Stay mindful of context, as this can influence whether the compound subject is considered singular or plural. Mastering subject-verb agreement with compound subjects is one of the most important skills you can develop as a writer. It can elevate the clarity of your sentences, making your message both effective and professional. Subject-verb agreement with compound subjects is a foundational element of grammar that enhances clarity, accuracy, and professionalism in writing. By paying attention to the rules and understanding when exceptions apply, you'll become a more confident writer, capable of crafting grammatically flawless sentences. But what happens when we venture into the realm of compound sentences? Or when we break the typical subject-verb rules for stylistic effect? Could bending the rules ever be more effective? Stay tuned for our next deep dive into advanced sentence structures, where we explore how writers use subject-verb agreement to create more compelling, impactful writing, sometimes by breaking the very rules we've just mastered. Singular subjects that seem plural. Have you ever encountered a sentence where the subject seems plural but is, in fact, singular? It's confusing, right? Many English learners and even seasoned writers can get tripped up by singular subjects that look plural. These tricky subjects can cause major confusion in terms of subject-verb agreement, leaving you wondering which verb form to use. It's a problem that can sneak into your writing, sometimes unnoticed, but it's crucial to get it right for clear communication. Let's take a closer look at singular subjects that appear plural and uncover the mystery behind them. By the end of this session, you'll be able to identify these tricky subjects with ease and know how to choose the correct verb form. Stick with me, and let's tackle these grammar roadblocks together. What are singular subjects that seem plural? A singular subject that seems plural is a subject that, while technically singular, contains elements that suggest it should be treated as plural. These subjects are often confusing because they look like they should take a plural verb form due to their structure or meaning, but they actually function as singular entities in sentences. The key to mastering these types of subjects is recognizing that appearance isn't always indicative of how we should treat them grammatically. At first glance, these subjects may seem like they're referring to multiple things, but closer inspection reveals that they represent a singular entity or concept. These can include words or phrases like collective nouns, measurements, time expressions, or subjects with a certain structure that makes them appear plural. Collective nouns, the hidden singular. Collective nouns are one of the most common categories of singular subjects that appear plural. A collective noun refers to a group of people, animals, or things considered as a single unit. Words like team, family, class, audience, and committee are examples of collective nouns. Although these nouns refer to multiple individuals or things, they are grammatically singular because they represent the group as a whole. For example, the team is practicing for the match. Even though team refers to multiple players, it's a singular entity, so we use the singular verb is. Similarly, the family is going on vacation next week. Here, family refers to a group of individuals, but it's treated as a singular subject, taking the singular verb is. The confusion arises when we start thinking of collective nouns as referring to individual members, but in grammatical terms, they are still treated as singular when they represent a unified whole. Uncountable nouns. The singular plural dilemma. Uncountable nouns are another category of singular subjects that can seem plural. These nouns refer to things that cannot be counted individually, like water, sand, furniture, and advice. While they may refer to large quantities of something, they are considered singular because they represent a mass or a concept rather than multiple distinct units. For example, the water is cold. Even though water might seem to imply a plural quantity, it's treated as singular because it refers to the substance as a whole. Similarly, furniture is expensive. While furniture can consist of many individual items, it is treated as a singular subject in terms of subject-verb agreement. One common mistake is treating uncountable nouns as plural, especially when referring to large amounts. However, it's important to remember that uncountable nouns are always singular and require a singular verb form. Amounts and measurements, singular subjects in disguise. Another category of singular subjects that often appears plural is when we talk about amounts, measurements, or quantities. These types of subjects are grammatically singular even though they might seem to refer to multiple things. Consider these examples. 5 miles is a long distance to walk. Here, 5 miles might sound like it should take a plural verb, but it's treated as a singular subject because it refers to a specific measurement of distance. Similarly, $10 is too much for that item. Even though $10 is made up of multiple units, it refers to a singular amount of money, so we use the singular verb is. This rule applies to other expressions of measurement or amount as well. Whether we are talking about time, money, distance, weight, or quantity, these expressions are treated as singular when they refer to a specific amount, not the individual components that make it up. Titles and names, the singular in disguise. Titles of books, movies, songs, and other works of art may appear plural, but they are grammatically singular. Despite being made up of multiple words or referring to multiple concepts, the title is considered a single entity. This can be a tricky one because titles often contain words that are plural or seem to refer to multiple things, yet they still take singular verbs. For example, The Lord of the Rings is a popular movie series. Even though The Lord of the Rings seems to imply more than one thing, it's the title of a singular entity, and thus, the singular verb is used. Similarly, The Chronicles of Narnia is a classic series. Here, The Chronicles of Narnia sounds plural, but it is treated as a singular subject because it refers to the collective body of work, not the individual books. When writing about titles, always treat them as singular subjects, regardless of their plural appearance, to ensure correct subject-verb agreement. Expressions of time and distance, singular or plural. When talking about time or distance, we often encounter phrases that seem plural but are grammatically singular. These expressions are used to convey a sense of duration or measurement but are still treated as singular subjects. For example, 5 years is a long time to wait. Although 5 years refers to a plural quantity, it refers to a single unit of time, so it takes the singular verb is. Similarly, 2 hours is enough to complete the task. Even though 2 hours consists of multiple units, the phrase refers to a single measurement of time and takes the singular verb is. These time and distance expressions can be tricky because we often associate plural nouns with plural verb forms. However, when referring to a specific period of time or distance, the subject remains singular. Words that end in s but are singular, some singular subjects may have an s at the end, making them appear plural, but they are still treated as singular. Words like news, mathematics, economics, and physics end in s but are singular in terms of subject-verb agreement. For example, the news is important. Despite the s at the end of news, it is treated as a singular subject and takes the singular verb is. Similarly, mathematics is a challenging subject. Mathematics ends in s, but it refers to a singular academic discipline, so it takes the singular verb is. When you encounter words that end in s but refer to singular concepts or fields of study, always remember that they take a singular verb. Tricky compound subjects with and. While compound subjects typically take a plural verb, there are exceptions when the two subjects are considered a singular unit. For instance, when two subjects are joined by and but represent a single idea or concept, the verb remains singular. For example, peanut butter and jelly is my favorite sandwich. Here, peanut butter and jelly refers to a singular concept, a type of sandwich, and takes the singular verb is. Similarly, bread and butter is a classic combination. Even though bread and butter are individual items, when combined, they refer to a single idea or food combination, so the singular verb is used. It's important to recognize when the elements of a compound subject are acting as a single unit in order to use the correct verb form. Common mistakes with singular subjects that seem plural. One of the most common mistakes writers make is treating singular subjects that seem plural as plural subjects, leading to subject-verb disagreement. This mistake is especially prevalent with collective nouns, measurements, and titles. For example, using the plural verb are with team or furniture can make the sentence sound awkward and grammatically incorrect. To avoid this, always remember that the subject is what determines the verb agreement. If the subject is singular, even if it seems plural, the verb should be singular as well. Conclusion: mastering singular subjects that seem plural. Navigating singular subjects that appear plural can be tricky, but understanding the rules and context behind them can help you become more confident in your writing. Whether it's a collective noun, an uncountable noun, a time or measurement expression, or a title, knowing when to use a singular verb is key to ensuring subject-verb agreement. With practice, you'll become adept at recognizing these tricky subjects and choosing the correct verb form to match them. Keep an eye out for these subjects in your writing, and don't let their appearance fool you. Now that we've mastered singular subjects that seem plural, you might be wondering, what happens when we get into the more complex territory of compound subjects or tricky constructions that defy conventional rules? What about when the subject is more than just a noun phrase? Stay tuned for our next session, where we dive deeper into advanced subject-verb agreement and explore how to handle even the most confusing sentence structures. You won't want plural subjects that seem singular. Have you ever been confused by a subject in a sentence that seems to be plural but takes a singular verb? It's one of the most perplexing rules in English grammar: plural subjects that seem singular. These subjects appear to be referring to more than one person, thing, or concept, yet the sentence calls for singular verb forms. This grammatical puzzle is something even the most experienced writers can get wrong. It's easy to mistake these subjects for plural ones because their structure or meaning may suggest otherwise. However, Understanding the nuances behind these seemingly paradoxical subjects can make all the difference in your writing. Stay tuned as we unravel the mysteries of these tricky subjects. By the end of this session, you will not only understand why certain plural subjects take singular verbs, but you'll also be able to use them confidently in your writing. Whether you're writing an essay, crafting a professional email, or simply improving your grammar, mastering these rules is crucial. What are plural subjects that seem singular in English grammar? Some subjects appear plural based on their form or meaning, but they are treated as singular in terms of subject-verb agreement. These subjects can confuse both learners and seasoned speakers alike because they don't follow the standard plural subject rule. It's crucial to identify these subjects in sentences to ensure you apply the right verb form. So, what makes a subject seem plural but act singular? The key lies in the structure of the subject or the concept it conveys. Despite referring to multiple people or things, these subjects function grammatically as singular, and this is why they require a singular verb. The challenge is to spot these subjects and recognize them as singular for the purposes of verb agreement. The role of collective nouns. One of the most common sources of plural subjects that seem singular is collective nouns. These are nouns that refer to a group of people or things considered as a whole. Words like family, team, group, audience, and class are collective nouns that can cause confusion. Even though collective nouns may refer to multiple individuals or things, they are grammatically singular because they represent a unified whole. For example, the team is playing well. The family is going on vacation. In both of these cases, the subject team and family refers to a group, but since we are referring to the group as a single unit, the verb takes the singular form. While it might seem logical to use a plural verb, since teams or families consist of multiple people, these subjects are treated as singular when they act as a whole. Uncountable nouns. The seemingly plural singulars, uncountable nouns, like furniture, advice, and information, often appear plural because they refer to large quantities or mass concepts. However, they are grammatically singular because they denote things that cannot be counted individually. Take the word furniture, for instance. It may seem plural due to its sounding multiple objects, but it's a mass noun, so it takes a singular verb. The furniture is expensive. Similarly, when talking about advice or information, we don't count them as individual units, and thus they take a singular verb. The information is vital to the success of the project. Her advice is always helpful. While these nouns might imply multiple items or pieces, they are treated as singular in grammar. Time, money, and measurement, singular units with plural appearances. When talking about time, money, or measurements, we often use expressions that refer to plural amounts. However, in these cases, the subject is still singular because the quantity is treated as a single unit. Let's break it down. $5 is all I have. 10 hours is too long to wait. Despite $5 or 10 hours seeming to refer to multiple units, they are singular in their grammatical usage. Here, the expression refers to a single amount, not individual dollars or hours. Therefore, they take the singular verb is. Similarly, expressions of distance or weight are treated as singular. 2 miles is a short walk. 5 kilograms is too heavy for that bag. The trick is to remember that when the subject refers to a total quantity, it takes a singular verb even if the subject seems plural. Titles of works, singular even with plural elements. In English, titles of books, movies, songs, and other works of art can often appear plural, but they are treated as singular subjects. These works of art, regardless of their plural-sounding titles, are treated as singular entities because they refer to the work as a whole, not the individual components. For example, The Chronicles of Narnia is a beloved series. The Lord of the Rings is an epic tale. Even though both titles seem plural because of the words chronicles and rings, they are treated as singular subjects because they represent a single collective work or series. This rule also applies to titles of films, albums, and other media. Regardless of the plural noun in the title, you always treat the title as a singular subject. Names of organizations or companies, plural in appearance. Singular in usage, many names of organizations, companies, or institutions may appear plural but are treated as singular in sentences. Consider the following examples. The United Nations is headquartered in New York. The Red Cross is an international organization. In these cases, even though the names of these organizations might contain words like nations or crosses that suggest multiple things, they are considered a single entity in terms of subject-verb agreement. The organization or company is a unit acting as a whole, which is why we use the singular verb form. Plural words that refer to singular concepts. Certain words in English are technically plural but refer to singular ideas. Words like statistics, economics, mathematics, and news end in s but are considered singular in grammar. These words refer to fields of study, concepts, or information, which are treated as singular. Economics is a fascinating subject. The news is on at 6 p.m. Even though these words end with an s, they are treated as singular because they represent a singular concept or field. The key takeaway here is that the s at the end of the word doesn't necessarily indicate plural usage. Tricky exceptions to the rule. The fine line between singular and plural. There are also exceptions where a subject might seem plural, but the context changes the agreement rule. For example, when we refer to certain collective subjects in a way that emphasizes individual components, we might choose to use a plural verb. In general, however, these are exceptions rather than the rule. For instance, the team are divided on the decision. In this case, team is emphasized as consisting of individual members with differing opinions, so a plural verb is used. This kind of usage happens when the subject of the sentence is viewed as a group of individuals acting separately. The verb agreement can shift depending on the context and the focus of the sentence. Understanding the importance of context. When working with plural subjects that seem singular, it's essential to always consider the context in which they're being used. While there are rules, the context of the sentence can often influence the agreement. Understanding the specific role of a subject within a sentence is vital to using the correct verb form. In some cases, writers or speakers might choose to treat a plural subject as singular to emphasize the unity of the group or concept. In others, a plural verb might be used when individual components of the group are being highlighted. Now that we've unpacked the concept of plural subjects that seem singular, you're probably wondering, what happens when we encounter more complex constructions, such as compound subjects or collective nouns that defy traditional rules? How do we handle more nuanced scenarios where subject-verb agreement is less clear? Stay tuned for the next session, where we'll explore more advanced subject-verb agreement rules and tackle some of the most challenging exceptions in English grammar. You won't want to miss it. Until then, remember that understanding the nuances of plural subjects that seem singular is key to mastering English grammar and making your writing both precise and clear. Indefinite pronouns as subjects. Have you ever wondered why we say everyone is invited but all are welcome? What makes the first sentence sound perfectly fine, while the second one may sound odd or even incorrect to some? The reason lies in the way we handle indefinite pronouns as subjects in English. Indefinite pronouns are tricky because they don't refer to specific people, places, or things. Instead, they stand for non-specific entities, making the choice of verb tense and number, singular or plural, more complicated. So, if you've ever been confused about whether to use is or are with words like everyone, someone, or none, you're not alone. In this lesson, we'll explore how indefinite pronouns function as subjects and how to master the subject-verb agreement when they appear. By the end, you'll know exactly how to form correct sentences using indefinite pronouns, no matter how tricky the sentence structure is. Let's dive in. Understanding indefinite pronouns. Indefinite pronouns are words that replace nouns without specifying exactly who or what they refer to. These pronouns serve a general, unspecified role in a sentence and include words like everyone, everything, anybody, nothing, several, and many. The key feature of these pronouns is that they don't point to specific people or things, which makes them different from other pronouns like he, she, or it. For example, consider the sentence, everyone loves ice cream. In this sentence, everyone is an indefinite pronoun. It's referring to a non-specific group of people, and it's understood that the group includes all individuals, without specifying any particular ones. The challenge arises when these pronouns take the place of subjects in sentences, so, when an indefinite pronoun functions as the subject, it can be singular or plural depending on the word it represents, which brings us to the tricky part. The subject-verb agreement, indefinite pronouns that are always singular. Some indefinite pronouns are always singular, no matter what. These pronouns refer to one entity or thing, and they require singular verbs to maintain proper subject-verb agreement. Let's look at some examples of these singular indefinite pronouns: everyone, anybody, someone. Each, everything, nobody. These pronouns refer to a single individual or thing in an unspecified way. For instance, everyone is going to the party. Someone left their umbrella here. In both sentences, the indefinite pronouns, everyone and someone, require singular verbs, is and left, because they represent a single person or thing. It's important to remember that, even though these pronouns imply a larger group or a range of things, they are treated grammatically as singular. So, it's always essential to use singular verbs in sentences with these pronouns. Indefinite pronouns that are always plural. Some indefinite pronouns are plural, which means they refer to more than one entity. These pronouns require plural verbs, just as you would use are instead of is for plural subjects. Here are a few indefinite pronouns that are always plural, both, few, many, several. When these pronouns appear as the subject of a sentence, they need to be paired with plural verbs to maintain grammatical agreement. For example, both of the books are interesting. Many have already left the party. In these examples, both and many are plural indefinite pronouns, so the verbs, are and have, must also be plural to match the subject in number. Remember, plural indefinite pronouns can refer to a non-specific group, but they imply more than one thing or person. Indefinite pronouns that can be singular or plural. Some indefinite pronouns can be singular or plural, depending on the context. These pronouns require careful attention to the meaning of the sentence to determine whether to use a singular or plural verb. The most common of these pronouns are all, any, none, some. The number of the verb, singular or plural, depends on what these pronouns refer to. If they refer to something singular, use a singular verb. If they refer to something plural, use a plural verb. For example, all of the cake is gone. Singular, all of the cakes are gone. Plural, in the first sentence, all refers to a singular amount, the entire cake, so the verb is used. In the second sentence, all refers to multiple cakes, so the verb are is used. Similarly, none and some can function in either way, depending on whether they refer to singular or plural nouns. None of the milk is left. Singular, none of the cookies are left. Plural, in these examples, milk is singular, and cookies is plural, so the verbs adjust accordingly. Exceptions and nuances in subject-verb agreement. Though many indefinite pronouns follow the rules mentioned above, English is full of exceptions. One of the most common exceptions occurs with the pronoun none. While none typically requires a singular verb when referring to a singular noun, like none of the milk, it can also take a plural verb when referring to multiple things. None of the students have arrived yet. None of the information is accurate. In the first sentence, students is plural, so the verb have is used. In the second sentence, information is singular, so the verb is used. Another nuance involves pronouns like everyone, which, while grammatically singular, may seem plural due to the collective meaning. In informal speech or writing, some people mistakenly use plural verbs with these pronouns. For instance, you might hear, everyone are going to the game. While this sentence may sound natural in casual speech, it is grammatically incorrect. The correct form should be, everyone is going to the game. This error occurs because, as a rule, everyone is singular and should be paired with a singular verb. Indefinite pronouns in complex sentences. Indefinite pronouns can also show up in more complex sentence structures. When an indefinite pronoun is combined with other subjects or elements, the verb choice can become more complicated. Consider the sentence, some of the students in the class are absent today. Here, some is the indefinite pronoun, but it is qualified by of the students in the class. Since the object of the preposition students is plural, the verb are is used. However, if the sentence referred to a singular noun instead, the verb would need to change. Some of the milk is spilled. In this case, milk is singular, so is used. This highlights the importance of analyzing the entire sentence to ensure that the subject-verb agreement matches. So, we've just explored the fascinating world of indefinite pronouns as subjects and their impact on subject-verb agreement. From singular pronouns like everyone to plural ones like both, we've covered the essentials of how to use these tricky words correctly. But what about even more complicated structures where pronouns mix with collective nouns, or cases where context changes the verb choice? How do we navigate those gray areas where rules seem to blur? The world of grammar is full of surprises, and understanding the finer details of indefinite pronouns will elevate your writing to the next level. Next time, we'll dive deeper into these complex scenarios and look at how other parts of speech interact with indefinite pronouns. You won't want to miss it. Until then, keep practicing your subject-verb agreement and mastering those tricky indefinite pronouns. The more you understand these rules, the more confident you'll be in your writing. Stay tuned for more. Complex subjects and modifiers. Have you ever encountered sentences that seem a little more complex than usual, where the subject seems to stretch on for miles and the verb still needs to agree? You might find yourself struggling to understand where the subject begins and where it ends. Or maybe you're unsure how to make the subject and the modifiers work together smoothly. Well, you're not alone. In today's world of more intricate writing and speech, complex subjects paired with modifiers are becoming more and more common. These sentences often have layers of description, details, or additional information that require extra attention to ensure proper sentence structure and clarity. How do you deal with these complex constructions without getting lost in the complexity? Stick around as we break down the components of complex subjects and modifiers and give you the tools you need to write with precision and clarity. By the end of this session, you'll not only understand complex subjects but also how to navigate modifiers with ease. Let's dive into the fascinating world of sentence structure and make it simpler together. What are complex subjects? To truly understand complex subjects, we need to start with the basics of a simple subject. A simple subject is the main noun or pronoun in a sentence that tells us who or what the sentence is about. However, when a subject grows in complexity, it's no longer just a single noun or pronoun. A complex subject is made up of multiple words that come together to form a more detailed or specific subject. It can include compound subjects, noun phrases, and even relative clauses. For example, take the sentence, "The tall man in the green jacket is my brother." In this case, the tall man in the green jacket is a complex subject. The simple subject might be just man, but modifiers like tall and in the green jacket provide more specific information. The subject is no longer simple, as it's made up of several words that come together to give a fuller picture of what the sentence is about. Complex subjects can be anything from a noun modified by adjectives to a noun phrase that includes relative clauses. These subjects tend to make the sentence more interesting, informative, and detailed. Let's take another example. The curious children with bright smiles were excited about the trip. Here, the subject, the curious children with bright smiles, is complex. It consists of the noun children along with two adjectives, curious and bright, and a prepositional phrase, with bright smiles, that further describe the children. This makes the subject richer in detail. Understanding modifiers. Now that we've covered complex subjects, let's talk about modifiers. Modifiers are words, phrases, or clauses that provide additional information about another element in the sentence, usually a noun or verb. They help clarify, explain, or elaborate on the main subject or action of the sentence. Modifiers can be adjectives, adverbs, prepositional phrases, or even entire clauses that function to add detail or nuance. There are two types of modifiers to be aware of: restrictive modifiers and non-restrictive modifiers. Restrictive modifiers provide essential information that limits or defines the noun they modify. Without these modifiers, the sentence would lose important meaning. Non-restrictive modifiers, on the other hand, add extra information that isn't essential to the core meaning of the sentence. These modifiers are often set off by commas. For example, the cat with the black fur is sleeping. Restrictive modifier. In this sentence, with the black fur is essential to identifying which cat is being referred to. My cat, with the black fur, is sleeping. Non-restrictive modifier. Here, with the black fur adds extra information but isn't necessary to identify the cat. Combining complex subjects with modifiers. The true magic happens when we combine complex subjects with modifiers. When modifiers are applied to a complex subject, they help to form rich and descriptive sentences. The key is knowing how to balance them in a way that maintains clarity while avoiding unnecessary confusion. For example, consider the sentence, "The students in the blue shirts are waiting for their turn." In this case, the students in the blue shirts is the complex subject, with the prepositional phrase in the blue shirts acting as the modifier that provides more information about which students are being referred to. The key here is that the modifier fits naturally with the subject without interrupting the flow of the sentence. Let's look at another example. The massive tree on the hill, whose roots have been exposed over time, towers over the entire neighborhood. In this sentence, the massive tree on the hill is the complex subject. The modifier whose roots have been exposed over time adds a relative clause that provides additional information. Notice how the modifier gives more depth to the subject without disrupting the sentence's structure. As you can see, combining complex subjects with well-placed modifiers allows for more vivid and engaging writing. However, it's important to ensure that your modifiers are placed correctly. Misplaced modifiers can lead to confusion or unintended meanings. So always double-check the placement of your modifiers. Troubleshooting complex subjects with modifiers. As with any complex structure, sentence construction with complex subjects and modifiers can lead to a few common mistakes. One of the most frequent issues arises from misplaced modifiers. A misplaced modifier occurs when the modifier is too far away from the word it is supposed to modify. This can cause ambiguity and make the sentence hard to understand. For example, he almost drove the car for 6 hours every day. The way this sentence is written, it suggests that he almost drove the car for 6 hours. But what's intended is that he drove the car for 6 hours almost every day. A better version would be, he drove the car for 6 hours almost every day. The modifier should be placed next to the phrase it's intended to modify to ensure clarity and coherence. Another common issue is dangling modifiers, where the noun or subject that should be modified isn't clearly stated. For example, after finishing the homework, the television was turned on. This sentence implies that the television finished the homework. To fix this, we should clarify the subject. After finishing the homework, he turned on the television. This ensures that the modifier clearly relates to the intended subject. By being mindful of these common errors and knowing how to troubleshoot them, you can avoid confusion and ensure your sentences flow smoothly. The power of combining multiple modifiers. Sometimes, you'll want to add more than one modifier to a complex subject. This allows you to provide even more detailed descriptions and create more engaging and immersive sentences. However, combining multiple modifiers requires careful attention to word order and punctuation. For example, the tall, dark-haired man in the blue shirt is my uncle. Here, we have a complex subject, the tall, dark-haired man in the blue shirt, and it's made even more detailed by combining multiple adjectives and a prepositional phrase. The commas are important here to separate the adjectives tall and dark-haired from the rest of the sentence and make it clear that both adjectives describe the man. However, when you combine multiple adjectives, you should be aware of the rule of coordinate adjectives, which states that if the adjectives equally modify the noun, they should be separated by commas. For instance, he is a talented, hardworking writer. But if the adjectives don't equally modify the noun, no commas are necessary. She is a long brown coat. This sentence is correct because long modifies coat, while brown modifies the entire noun phrase long brown coat. When you combine several modifiers, be sure to pay attention to how they interact with each other and the subject. This will make your writing clearer and more polished. The role of relative clauses in complex subjects. One of the more advanced aspects of complex subjects is the inclusion of relative clauses. A relative clause is a group of words that describes or gives more information about a noun, usually starting with a relative pronoun like who, which, or that. When a relative clause is added to a subject, it makes the subject even more specific and detailed. For example, the artist who painted the mural is my cousin. In this sentence, the artist who painted the mural is the complex subject. The relative clause who painted the mural gives us more information about which artist is being referred to. Without this relative clause, the sentence would simply be the artist is my cousin, which is less specific. Adding relative clauses can make your writing more engaging and informative, but it also makes the sentence more complicated. Be sure to punctuate your relative clauses correctly and ensure that they fit smoothly into the sentence structure. Ensuring sentence clarity with complex subjects and modifiers. The most important thing to remember when dealing with complex subjects and modifiers is clarity. While modifiers and additional descriptive elements can enrich your writing, too many details can overwhelm the reader or confuse them about what the sentence is really about. To ensure clarity, avoid overloading your subject with too many modifiers. Be cautious of long-winded sentences that become hard to follow. Always check that your modifiers are placed next to the word they are modifying. Be mindful of punctuation to prevent confusion. A well-crafted sentence with a complex subject and carefully chosen modifiers can be both informative and easy to understand. But it requires practice and attention to detail. Well, there you have it, an in-depth exploration of complex subjects and modifiers and how they shape sentence structure. From the core of simple subjects to the more intricate world of modifying phrases and clauses, you've learned how to build rich relative clauses and subject-verb agreement. Imagine you're reading a beautifully complex sentence that holds so much information, yet it flows smoothly and effortlessly. Have you ever wondered how such sentences maintain their balance? How do they combine multiple clauses, especially relative clauses, without creating confusion? And more importantly, how do we ensure the subject and the verb always agree, even in these complex constructions, whether you're writing a professional article, crafting a story, or just trying to improve your sentence structures? Understanding relative clauses and subject-verb agreement is crucial. These elements are what separate simple sentences from more complex, sophisticated ones. Today, we're going to break down how relative clauses fit into a sentence, how they can change the subject-verb relationship, and most importantly, how we ensure that these sentences still remain grammatically correct. Get ready to dive into the world of relative clauses and subject-verb agreement, and discover how these tools will make your writing clearer, more precise, and most of all, more engaging. Understanding relative clauses. A relative clause is a dependent clause that describes or gives more information about a noun. It's called a relative clause because it modifies a noun or pronoun in a sentence and typically starts with a relative pronoun such as who, which, or that. For example, the book that I borrowed is fantastic. The woman who lives next door is a doctor. In both cases, the relative clauses that I borrowed and who lives next door describe the nouns book and woman, respectively. Without these clauses, the sentences would be more general and lacking detail. Now, let's take a closer look at how relative clauses can affect subject-verb agreement. The relationship between relative clauses and subject-verb agreement. When a relative clause is added to a sentence, the main subject of the sentence may seem to be obscured by additional information. But the subject of the sentence still controls the verb form. This is crucial in maintaining subject-verb agreement. Subject-verb agreement refers to the rule that verbs must match the subject in terms of number, singular or plural. If the subject is singular, the verb must be singular. If the subject is plural, the verb must be plural. Consider the sentence. The teacher who is standing in the front of the class is very kind. Here, the subject is the teacher, which is singular. Even though the relative clause, who is standing in the front of the class, is modifying the subject, the verb remains singular to match the singular subject. Plural subjects in relative clauses. Things can get a bit trickier when the subject of the relative clause is plural. If the noun being described by the relative clause is plural, the verb needs to reflect that as well. Take a look at this example. The students who are participating in the competition will receive prizes. Here, The relative clause who are participating in the competition describes the plural noun students, so the verb are is used instead of is to match the plural subject. How to handle non-restrictive relative clauses. A non-restrictive relative clause is an additional clause that provides extra information but does not alter the core meaning of the sentence. Non-restrictive clauses are set off by commas and usually don't affect the subject-verb agreement. For example, my brother, who is a doctor, lives in New York. The relative clause who is a doctor doesn't change the subject my brother. Therefore, the subject-verb agreement still follows the singular form, lives. Handling complex sentences with multiple clauses. When sentences contain multiple relative clauses, it's essential to be aware of how the subject-verb agreement works with each clause. Let's look at an example. The dogs that are barking loudly and the cats that are playing in the yard seem to be having a lot of fun. In this sentence, there are two relative clauses modifying dogs and cats. Despite the fact that we have two plural subjects, dogs and cats, the sentence still maintains subject-verb agreement for each group, are barking and are playing. The verbs agree with their respective plural subjects. Common mistakes in subject-verb agreement with relative clauses. Many people struggle with subject-verb agreement when relative clauses are involved. Here are some common mistakes and tips for fixing them. 1. Incorrect verb form with singular subjects. The team that were late for practice will not be allowed to play. In this case, team is singular, so the verb should be was instead of were. Corrected. The team that was late for practice will not be allowed to play. Overlooking plural subjects in relative clauses. The boys who has been playing football are my friends. Here, the subject boys is plural, so the verb should be have, not has. Corrected. The boys who have been playing football are my friends. Important considerations for subject-verb agreement. When constructing sentences with relative clauses, it's essential to ensure that subject-verb agreement is clear. Here are some tips to remember. Pay attention to the subject of the relative clause. The relative pronoun connects the clause to the subject of the main sentence. This often leads to confusion, as the subject of the relative clause might not be the same as the subject of the entire sentence. Don't be misled by intervening words. Sometimes, the subject and verb are separated by words or phrases, such as adjectives or adverbs, within the relative clause. These shouldn't distract you from matching the verb with the correct subject. Relative pronouns can change based on the subject. If you're dealing with a plural subject in the relative clause, you need to make sure you use the correct form of the verb. For example, use who for people and which for things. Now that you understand how relative clauses work with subject-verb agreement, you might be thinking, that was a lot of information. And you'd be right. But the good news is, mastering these concepts can completely change how you write and speak. Making your communication more powerful and clear. Imagine being able to confidently create complex, yet grammatically correct, sentences in your writing. You'll stand out in professional writing, storytelling, and even casual conversations. But what happens when the subject-verb agreement isn't so clear-cut? What if the subject is implied or even split across several parts of a sentence? Stay tuned, because next time, we're diving into even more advanced techniques that will elevate your writing skills. Until then, keep practicing your relative clauses and subject-verb agreement. Trust me, your readers and listeners will notice. Titles and singular concepts. Have you ever paused while writing a title or heading and found yourself questioning whether it should be singular or plural? It's easy to overlook, but small decisions like these can significantly affect the clarity and tone of your writing. Titles, whether they're for essays, books, articles, or even social media posts, often convey a world of meaning with just a few words. Yet, the choice between singular and plural forms in titles can shift a reader's perception and impact how the message is understood. Understanding titles and singular concepts is crucial when writing, whether you're crafting a book title, a blog headline, or even a news article. Are you confident in knowing how to handle singular and plural concepts in your titles? In this session, we'll not only explore the rules governing these choices but also dive into the nuances that can make your writing more compelling, precise, and professional. Stick with me, and we'll unravel the mysteries behind titles and singular concepts, ensuring your titles are perfect every time. The power of titles. What's in a name? Titles play a crucial role in any form of writing. They are the first thing readers encounter, and they set the tone for what follows. The title not only provides insight into the content of a piece but also establishes an expectation. Whether it's a novel, an academic paper, or a blog post, your title is the first opportunity to capture attention. When it comes to titles, we often deal with singular and plural forms, particularly when talking about concepts. Why does this matter? Let's begin with the singular concept, which often leads to confusion, especially when referring to abstract ideas or collective nouns. Singular concepts and their significance in titles. A singular concept is an idea or notion that refers to something in one entity. It represents a single theme, a specific object, or one general idea. The subject of the title can often be abstract or very broad, like success, love, or innovation. Here's where the tricky part lies. While these concepts seem to imply that the title refers to multiple instances, they are usually treated as singular in the context of titles. Let's explore some examples. The art of war, not the arts of war. The science of happiness, not the sciences of happiness. In these titles, though the words art and science could seem to encompass a broad field or plural themes, they are treated as singular because they are being viewed as overarching concepts, not individual instances. Therefore, the singular form fits because the focus is on one concept as a whole. Titles involving abstract ideas. Titles that deal with abstract ideas often use the singular form to reflect the universality of the concept. Words like truth, beauty, honor, and courage are powerful in singular form because they represent ideals, not individual occurrences. For example, the beauty of nature, the power of words, the pursuit of happiness. In these titles, the use of the singular form is important to communicate that the work focuses on the general principle or concept itself. The singular form gives a sense of unity and harmony, making the subject feel complete and all-encompassing. Collective nouns and singular titles. Collective nouns refer to a group of individuals or things considered as a unit. For example, family, team, group, and committee are all collective nouns. While these nouns refer to multiple members, they are often treated as singular when used in titles. Take the title, The Family That Changed the World. Even though a family consists of multiple individuals, in this case, the collective noun family is treated as singular because it refers to the family as one cohesive unit. This treatment helps simplify the concept and focus on the idea that the family, as a whole, had a significant impact. Similarly, the committee's decision. This title suggests that the committee, as a single unit, has made a decision. Even though the committee may consist of several people, the noun is treated as singular because the title refers to the collective decision-making process as a whole. Exceptions to singular treatment in titles. However, not every concept that seems singular is treated as such in titles. Some words and phrases may suggest multiplicity, even though they could theoretically be considered singular. Words like minds, shapes, visions, or worlds can sometimes be tricky, as they imply more than one entity. For instance, the world's many wonders, plural treatment for the concept of worlds as it refers to different places in the world, rather than a single world. Visions of the future, plural treatment for the concept of visions, which implies multiple perspectives or futures. In these cases, the plural treatment helps convey that the concept is not about one singular, unified idea but rather a collection of separate ideas. The grammar of titles and subject-verb agreement. In the context of titles, subject-verb agreement is a key consideration. Even when titles contain singular concepts, the subject-verb agreement must be consistent with the singular form. Let's break it down. Singular titles. When a title is singular, the subject-verb agreement follows the same rule. For example, oh, the power of words is unmatched. Here, the singular subject power agrees with the singular verb is of plural titles. If a title is plural in nature, subject-verb agreement changes accordingly. Oh, the wonders of the world are endless. In this case, the plural subject wonders agrees with the plural verb are. Titles in the context of specific fields. In specialized fields, titles often use singular concepts to indicate the importance of a single idea. For example, In philosophy, literature, and psychology, concepts like mind, soul, consciousness, or memory are often treated as singular ideas despite their potential for many interpretations. In this context, titles like The Psychology of Memory, The Philosophy of Consciousness are examples of singular treatment of abstract concepts, even though the ideas themselves may encompass broad and varied interpretations. As we have seen, titles and singular concepts are more than just a matter of grammar, they are a matter of perception and clarity. How we treat the singular or plural form in titles can change the meaning we convey, even if the message is subtle. As a writer, mastering this nuance can elevate your titles, making them more compelling and aligned with the essence of your work. But what happens when your title is so complex that it challenges the very concept of singular versus plural? What if your title references multiple aspects of one concept? Or what if you are dealing with technical terms or jargon that doesn't easily fit into the singular/plural dichotomy? In the next session, we'll dive deeper into these advanced scenarios and look at specific cases where the rules blur. And you'll learn how to handle even the trickiest title constructions. Keep practicing, experimenting, and refining your skills, because the power of a well-crafted title is not just in the words, it's in the impact they have on your audience. Until next time, happy writing. Special cases and exceptions. Imagine this scenario: you're confidently writing a sentence, following all the rules of grammar you've learned so far. But then, out of nowhere, a special case or exception pops up, causing you to second-guess your choice of words. Is it singular or plural? Should it be a or an? Does this word take the same verb tense as the others, or is there an exception to the rule? These special cases and exceptions are often the trickiest part of mastering sentence structure, especially when it feels like there are more exceptions than there are rules. In today's lesson, we're going to tackle these tricky situations head-on. By the end, you'll have a much clearer understanding of how to handle these exceptions with ease and confidence. Stick with me, because by the end of this, your understanding of sentence structure will be much more nuanced and much stronger. Introduction to special cases and exceptions. Grammar is built on rules, and most of the time, following these rules results in clear, effective communication. But, as with all things in life, there are always a few exceptions to the rule. Special cases and exceptions in sentence structure refer to situations where common rules for subject-verb agreement, word usage, or sentence construction do not apply in the way you might expect. These exceptions are often confusing and can make sentence construction more complicated. Special cases can include anything from collective nouns to words that look plural but are treated as singular, or terms that seem to require one verb form but are treated differently in certain contexts. Understanding these exceptions can drastically improve both your writing and speaking skills, ensuring that you sound more natural and fluent. So, let's dive in and break down these tricky areas. Collective nouns and their special treatment. One of the most common special cases you will encounter in sentence structure involves collective nouns. Collective nouns are words like team, group, or family, which refer to a collection of individuals or things. The tricky part? Depending on how you're using the collective noun, it may require either a singular or plural verb. When the group is acting as a single unit, you use a singular verb. For example, the team is practicing hard. However, if the individuals within the group are acting separately, you might treat the collective noun as plural. The team are arguing among themselves. It's essential to recognize the context to apply the correct subject-verb agreement in these cases. Words that appear plural but are singular. Now, let's talk about words that appear to be plural but are actually treated as singular. For instance, the word news may look like it should take a plural verb, but it's actually singular. So, the correct form would be, the news is shocking. Not the news are shocking. Another example is mathematics, which also takes a singular verb. Mathematics is an important subject. Words like measles, physics, and economics fall into this category, where despite ending in s, they are considered singular when it comes to subject-verb agreement. Indefinite pronouns as subjects. Indefinite pronouns, like everyone, someone, and each, also present unique challenges when it comes to subject-verb agreement. These words might seem like they're referring to more than one person or thing, but they are treated as singular in the context of subject-verb agreement. For example, everyone is here is correct, even though everyone refers to a group of people. It's essential to remember that indefinite pronouns, no matter how many people or things they refer to, are always treated as singular. This is because they represent an unspecified quantity, not a specific, countable number. Titles and singular concepts. Another special case involves titles and singular concepts, which are treated as singular even if they appear plural. For example, when referring to a book, movie, or work of art, the title is usually considered singular. The Chronicles of Narnia is a famous series. Even though Chronicles is plural in form, the title as a whole is treated as a singular entity. Similarly, when referring to a concept like mathematics or statistics, even though these subjects involve many elements, they are still treated as singular when talking about them in a general sense. So, you would say, statistics is a challenging subject, not statistics are a challenging subject. Compound subjects and special cases. When you have a compound subject, the rules can vary depending on how the items in the compound subject are connected. If two subjects are joined by and, they typically require a plural verb. For instance, John and Maria are going to the market. However, if the subjects are joined by or nor, the verb will agree with the subject closest to it. For example, either the teacher or the students are responsible for the decision. Another tricky aspect of compound subjects is when they are linked by not only, but also. In these cases, the verb often agrees with the second part of the compound subject. For example, not only the teacher but also the students are excited about the project. Special cases in pluralization. In some cases, words that appear plural require a singular verb, and this can throw off even the most experienced writers. For example, words that end in s but refer to a singular concept, like economics or mathematics, always take a singular verb. This goes against what you might expect based on the word's appearance, so it's crucial to remember these exceptions. Additionally, when dealing with quantities or measurements, the rules for subject-verb agreement can change. For instance, $5 is a fair price, even though dollars is plural. This is because the phrase $5 refers to a singular unit of currency. Similarly, 10 liters is enough for the trip, where liters may seem plural but refers to a specific amount, making the verb singular as we've explored today. The English language is full of exceptions and special cases when it comes to subject-verb agreement and sentence structure. These exceptions can make even the most seasoned writers and speakers pause and reconsider their choices. But understanding and mastering these nuances is key to achieving fluency in both written and spoken English. Now, you might be thinking, is there more to it? Are there other exceptions I need to watch out for? Well, you're in luck. In the next segment, we'll continue diving into even more special cases and tricky situations that could trip you up if you're not careful. Stay tuned because we're just getting started on this fascinating journey through the English language. Why singular and plural subjects matter. Let's imagine you're reading an article or listening to someone speak, and they make a small mistake, using a singular subject with a plural verb, or the other way around. Does it make a difference to you? For most of us, these subtle errors may go unnoticed in casual conversation. But in professional writing, academic work, or public speaking, such errors can leave a lasting impact. You might even lose credibility or create confusion for your audience. So, why do singular and plural subjects matter so much in the first place? And how can understanding these simple grammatical rules elevate the quality of your writing or speaking? Let's dive into the heart of this issue: how the choice between singular and plural subjects can affect clarity, style, and overall communication. In this session, we're going to explore the crucial role of subject-verb agreement, why it's essential for accurate communication, and the common pitfalls to avoid. Stay tuned. By the end, you'll see why mastering this rule can make all the difference. Understanding subject-verb agreement. At the heart of English grammar lies one simple rule: subject and verb must agree in number. If the subject is singular, the verb must also be singular. Likewise, if the subject is plural, the verb must be plural. It sounds straightforward, right? But even the smallest violation of this rule can create confusion, disrupt flow, and undermine the credibility of your writing. For instance, consider this sentence: the dog runs in the park. Here, dog is singular, and so the verb runs is also singular. Now, if we make the subject plural, the dogs run in the park, the verb changes accordingly to run to match the plural subject. This is a basic example of subject-verb agreement at work. When subject and verb don't agree in number, it can lead to awkward or incorrect sentences. For example, the dog run in the park is incorrect because the singular subject dog doesn't match the plural verb run. While this might seem like a small mistake, it can easily confuse the reader or listener. Clarity in communication. Subject-verb agreement plays a crucial role in ensuring clarity. Imagine reading a book or article where the subject and verb don't match. It would likely cause the reader to pause and reconsider the meaning of the sentence. If the subject-verb agreement isn't accurate, readers may become confused about whether the writer is referring to one item or multiple. This confusion can break the flow of reading and detract from the overall message. In business communication, legal documents, and formal writing, clarity is paramount. Even minor grammatical errors can make the difference between a message being understood clearly and leaving the audience with doubts or misinterpretations. Incorrect subject-verb agreement can even alter the meaning of a sentence. Take, for example, the following sentence: the team is excited for the game. If the subject-verb agreement were incorrect and you said, the team are excited for the game, the sentence would feel off to a native English speaker, affecting its professional tone. By ensuring that your subjects and verbs agree in number, you're making it easier for your audience to understand your message. This simple yet vital rule of grammar plays a significant role in how effective your communication is, whether you're writing an email, presenting a report, or even giving a public speech. Impact on tone and formality. Singular and plural subject choices also contribute to the tone of your writing. While subject-verb agreement might seem like a technicality, it influences how formal or casual your writing feels. In formal writing, such as in academic papers, business communications, or professional emails, maintaining the correct subject-verb agreement is a sign of attention to detail. It reflects your respect for the reader and your commitment to delivering information clearly and accurately. On the other hand, informal writing, such as personal messages or casual blog posts, may be more forgiving when it comes to subject-verb agreement. In these cases, people may use contractions or simplify their sentence structure in ways that might be considered incorrect in a formal context. However, even in casual writing, maintaining proper subject-verb agreement is still essential to ensure clarity and readability. For instance, consider the sentence, "The teacher is giving a lecture." If this were to be phrased incorrectly as, "The teacher are giving a lecture," it would sound awkward and unprofessional in a formal setting, even though the meaning remains largely clear. Conversely, incorrect agreement might not stand out in a casual conversation, but over time, it can undermine your credibility as a writer or speaker. Avoiding common pitfalls. One of the most common mistakes people make when it comes to subject-verb agreement involves identifying when to treat words as singular or plural. For example, collective nouns, such as team or group, may appear plural but are often treated as singular. The team is winning the match is correct, even though team refers to a group of people. Similarly, words that end in s like news or mathematics are singular, not plural, and require singular verbs. The news is surprising. In contrast, there are words that appear singular but are treated as plural. The children are playing outside is correct, even though children is a plural subject. Similarly, when referring to multiple items, we should be careful not to confuse the number of subjects in a compound subject with the verb agreement. For instance, the manager and his team are preparing for the presentation correctly matches the plural subject with the plural verb. Another tricky area involves indefinite pronouns. Words like everyone, someone, and nobody may refer to a group of people but are considered singular, requiring singular verbs. Everyone is here is correct, not everyone are here. Understanding these nuances is key to mastering subject-verb agreement, special cases, titles, money, and measurements. In addition to these general guidelines, special cases can throw off subject-verb agreement. Consider titles of books, movies, or works of art, which often appear plural but are singular. The Lord of the Rings is a popular trilogy. Similarly, when referring to amounts of money or time, these are treated as singular. $5 is enough to buy lunch, even though dollars is plural. Measurements, even when plural in form, are often treated as singular because they refer to a single amount or unit of measurement. For example, 10 liters is too much, or 5 years is a long time. These exceptions show that subject-verb agreement is not always as simple as it seems. Understanding when the rules apply and when to recognize exceptions is essential for mastering this important aspect of sentence structure. As we've explored in this session, the impact of singular and plural subjects extends far beyond grammar. It affects clarity, professionalism, and how effectively your message is communicated. Whether you're writing an essay, drafting a business proposal, or giving a presentation, subject-verb agreement can elevate your work, making it more polished and impactful. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. In the next session, we'll dig deeper into complex subject-verb agreement rules, including tricky cases with collective nouns, compound subjects, and more. Plus, we'll explore how to use subject-verb agreement to enhance your writing style and avoid common mistakes. Stay tuned as we continue this grammar journey, and make sure to put these concepts into practice to improve your communication skills. Overcoming common mistakes. Have you ever been caught making a mistake that, deep down, you knew you could have avoided? Maybe it's a simple grammar error that left you embarrassed in front of colleagues, or perhaps you missed an opportunity because of a minor oversight. Everyone makes mistakes, but the key is knowing how to recognize them, learn from them, and overcome them. Mistakes aren't just inevitable, they're part of growth. Whether you're working in a professional setting, studying for exams, or engaging in day-to-day conversations, mistakes are bound to happen. The good news? You don't have to stay stuck in them. In this session, we're going to explore common mistakes that people make across various aspects of work, life, and communication, and most importantly, how you can avoid them and use them to propel yourself forward. By the end, you'll not only understand what went wrong but also how to turn these slip-ups into stepping stones to success. Recognizing the importance of mistakes. It's easy to feel discouraged when mistakes happen, but it's crucial to shift your perspective. Mistakes are not failures, they are opportunities to improve. Recognizing the common errors we make allows us to avoid them in the future, enhancing our performance and success rate. Whether it's something as simple as a typo in an email or as complex as a project management oversight, understanding the root of these mistakes can help you develop strategies for better decision-making and problem-solving. The first step is acknowledgement. Understanding where and why you make mistakes, whether in communication, work processes, or personal habits, is essential. Do you frequently misplace details when multitasking? Do you make the same typo in your reports or emails? Identifying the issue is half the battle. 1. From there, we can dive deeper into how to overcome these common mistakes. Communication errors. One of the most frequent areas where people make mistakes is communication. In both personal and professional settings, miscommunication can lead to misunderstandings, missed opportunities, and strained relationships. These errors often happen when we don't actively listen or when we fail to ask clarifying questions before proceeding. This can be as simple as misunderstanding a colleague's request or misinterpreting a boss's directive. The good news is that overcoming communication mistakes can be relatively simple once you recognize where the breakdown occurred. For instance, instead of assuming, "I think I know what they meant, why not ask?" Phrases like, "just to clarify," or "can you help me better understand," can go a long way. Additionally, nonverbal communication plays a significant role. Mistakes often arise from body language, tone, or facial expressions that don't align with our words. The key to improving communication mistakes lies in active listening, asking questions, and ensuring you're on the same page before proceeding. Time management blunders. Another area where people tend to make mistakes is time management. It's common to underestimate how long a task will take, which leads to delays and stress. It could be that you're overwhelmed with your to-do list. Or perhaps you're unsure how to prioritize tasks effectively. Whatever the cause, the outcome is usually the same: tasks pile up, deadlines are missed, and productivity suffers. One way to overcome time management mistakes is by breaking down large tasks into smaller, manageable chunks. This method allows you to stay focused on one part at a time, reducing the feeling of being overwhelmed. Using tools like calendars, task management apps, or a simple to-do list can also help you stay organized. Prioritize your tasks based on importance and deadlines, and don't be afraid to delegate when necessary. Remember, perfection is not the goal, consistency and progress are. Procrastination pitfalls. Procrastination is another widespread issue that often leads to mistakes. It's easy to put things off when they seem difficult or overwhelming, but procrastination only increases stress and mistakes in the long run. You might delay a report, put off responding to an email, or avoid making a decision until it's too late. The longer you wait, the more mistakes you'll have to correct later. To overcome procrastination, it's essential to build momentum. Break large tasks into smaller, more manageable actions and start with the easiest task to build your confidence. Use techniques like the Pomodoro method, working for 25 minutes, followed by a 5-minute break, to maintain focus without feeling burned out. Additionally, identifying your procrastination triggers can help you avoid them in the future. Whether it's fear of failure, lack of motivation, or simple distraction, knowing the root of your procrastination allows you to address it head-on. Inconsistent organization. Disorganization is often the culprit behind many mistakes, particularly in work and study environments. From missed deadlines to misplaced files, a cluttered workspace or disorganized schedule can lead to unnecessary errors. One way to combat this is by creating a system that works for you. This could involve organizing your physical space, creating a digital filing system, or setting aside specific times each day for certain tasks. A good practice is to tackle your most important tasks first thing in the morning when your energy and focus are at their peak. Afterward, tackle the smaller, less critical tasks. Decluttering your workspace, whether physical or digital, is equally important. Removing unnecessary distractions and staying organized can help you avoid the mistakes that come from chaos. Perfectionism. Mistakes. While striving for excellence is admirable, perfectionism can often backfire. The desire to get everything exactly right can lead to missed opportunities or even burnout. People who are perfectionists often make the mistake of delaying a project or decision, trying to make everything flawless before moving forward. But perfection doesn't always equate to progress, and in many cases, perfectionism can hinder productivity. To overcome perfectionism, learn to embrace good enough. Set realistic standards for yourself and acknowledge that mistakes are part of the process. Strive for progress rather than perfection, and focus on finishing tasks to the best of your ability without obsessing over every minute detail. By doing so, you'll reduce stress and improve your overall efficiency. Decision-making mistakes. Every day, we are faced with decisions that range from small to significant. Some mistakes happen when we fail to gather enough information before making a decision. Other times, we may rush through the process or ignore our intuition. A poor decision, whether in work or life, can lead to wasted time, lost opportunities, or the need for extensive correction later on. To avoid making poor decisions, take your time to assess the situation. Break down the decision-making process into clear steps, gather relevant data, and consider all possible outcomes. Trust your instincts, but balance them with logic and facts. When possible, seek advice from others who might have more experience or insight. As we wrap up today's session, we've learned that overcoming common mistakes isn't just about recognizing errors, it's about implementing strategies to prevent them in the future. Whether it's improving communication, refining time management skills, or combating procrastination, the key to overcoming mistakes lies in self-awareness and continuous improvement. But here's the exciting part. Overcoming mistakes isn't a one-time fix. It's an ongoing process. And in the next session, we're going to dive deeper into some of the advanced strategies for minimizing mistakes, including how to build a growth mindset and how to create an environment that fosters learning and improvement. We'll explore practical techniques to make fewer mistakes, recover quickly when they happen, and continue progressing in your personal and professional life. Stay tuned as we continue our journey of growth, learning, and mastering the art of overcoming mistakes.